Hey guys! Okay, I know it's been a while, again. I'm so sorry. You know I've never claimed to keep a schedule, but I really didn't mean for it to go on this long. Oh, either way. I am actually planning on finishing up this video series on Grace and Frankie pretty soon because, okay, so on April 29th, 2022, the last 12 episodes of the series came out. So I thought it would be fun to do the ranking video on April 29th, 2023, which is going to be on Saturday, 2 days from now. But that means I'll have to do 3 character videos before then. And, you know, like, I'm gonna try. I'm crossing my fingers, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so for today's video, I'm gonna be talking about Robert Hanson, who was played by Martin Sheen, and as usual, there will be spoilers. Okay. So now, before, I feel like I said something about not being able to pick favorites between these 4 characters. Yeah, it's just probably not true. Like, I'm sure I thought that at the time, but, like, yeah, thinking about it as I watch the show again, I definitely prefer Robert over Saul. I love Saul. Love Saul so much. But Robert holds a special place in my heart. And for a lot of reasons, which I'll get into in a bit, but, like, he was not a perfect man, but, he went through so much. Just so much in life, and it's just, you know, and his ending was just so tragic. But we'll get there. Okay, personality. I always enjoyed Robert's personality, too. He's more down-to-earth than Saul, but not to the same level as Grace, I'd say. He's probably the most balanced character on the show, actually. No, that's not true. Bud's the most balanced character on the show. But, like, for one of the main 4, he's the most balanced character on the show. But, you know, he can be fun. He definitely enjoys musical theater a lot, as we see often. And by the way, I love anytime Martin Sheen sings, I'm totally here for it. Like, I still sometimes if I'm just feeling in the mood, I look up, what was that song called? He sang it at the end of season 5. I want to say it was The Impossible Dream, but that's not what it was called, I don't think. Either way, I like to listen to it. It's really good, and it was just, that scene's one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. So, anyways. He was also, he definitely have, like, some funny, sarcastic humor. And he could definitely be the voice of reason. Specifically, I'm thinking of when Allison and, was it Saul, decided that it was a good idea to do the DNA test on Bud without him knowing. Robert was the only one who was even a little bit reasonable in the situation. Because, you know, don't do that without telling the person you're DNA testing. Seriously, guys. Anyways. God. Robert could for sure be self-centered at times. And often I think he did things without realizing, like, without necessarily, thinking them all the way through. A good example of that was the gifts thing with Grace. Like, when he had all those gifts and the cards. The cards definitely took it too far. But I think the original idea of, just having gifts, you know, if we saw something she liked, buying it, and then just saving it for a time to give it to her, I don't think that's necessarily that bad. Again, I think the way he went about it was definitely wrong, and he definitely took it to an extreme, and, you know, that was the whole point. But I do think he had the best of intentions at first. Anyways, I also think that he could be really just genuinely sweet and just bang on with that. Like, when he was doing that nice, was it like a dinner for Saul before Saul told him about Frankie and everything exploded. By the way, I don't blame, Saul. No, I blame Saul. I don't blame Robert for that. I know people have said that he overreacted. In my opinion, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. Your then fiance, who you were at that moment trying to write vows for that he really wanted you to write, decided to go off and sleep with his ex. No, he has every right to end that relationship. Obviously, he got back on track. But, you know, oh, God. Anyways, that was definitely the thing I understood least about Saul. People have understood it, but I don't, personally. I just I've never understood that whole thing. But anyways. Okay. So, but yeah, I think Saul was a good person overall. I mean, jeez, I'm so sorry. I'm not doing good today. I meant Robert. I gotta get my name straight. Okay. So, now on to relationships. I'm gonna start with his relationship with his stepsons, which I don't think were explored enough. Like, we had that great scene in season 2 with him talking to Coyote, and it gave this deep idea of past history that we didn't necessarily see that much of. But I mean, again, those two families were so close as when the kids were little. Like, you know, I could definitely see Robert babysitting the boys if needed. Maybe not Grace. I mean, I'm sure she would have if really needed, but I mean, I feel like Robert would have been the one to step in there first. But I could definitely see that, and you could definitely see that they'd had, you know, like, they definitely knew each other well. So, yeah, that was a really good scene. I wish we'd had more development with Robert and the boys. We didn't get nothing, but overall, we didn't get a ton, fortunately. Robert and his daughters, they always seem to have a pretty stable relationship overall. Like, you know, things weren't obviously perfect, but, like, overall, it was pretty good. You definitely got the idea that he was the more warm of the two, like, between him and Grace. You definitely got the idea that he was the one, like, more warm and probably more hands-on with the kids. That's not me being judgmental, I'm just saying that's how it seemed. But yeah, that was good. The scene where they find out about his Alzheimer's was so sad. God, that was a very touching scene. Okay, moving on to him and Frankie. Love that relationship. I loved the scene in season 2 where Frankie goes to apologize for sleeping with Saul. And I'm pretty sure Robert also apologizes to Frankie for, you know, being with Saul for 20 years without, you know, well, he was still married to Frankie. I'm not sure if he does, but I'm pretty sure he does. Very good scene either way. And the other just funny scene was when, in the season 3, episode 10, the labels, when, you know, Robert, or Saul and Grace were super into the labeling, and Frankie and Robert were just like, oh, God. I loved that scene. Also, wasn't Robert the first person to find out about Frankie maybe moving to Stand and Fight with Jake? I'm not totally positive on that one because I'm not, like, I don't have every single line of that show memorized anymore. Not that I really ever actually did, but there was a time when I knew it, like, I still know it really well, but I watched it so much for a while there where I practically say the lines with the characters. Anyways. Now on to my unfortunately least favorite relationship, well, with Robert anyway, Robert and Grace. Now, I don't dislike Robert and Grace as much as I disliked this whole Saul and Frankie dynamic, which, again, I know I shouldn't have, but I did. But Robert and Grace, I don't know, I didn't feel it. All the ingredients were there, and I felt like I should have felt it. But for whatever reason, I just didn't. But still, they did have some good moments. They definitely gave the impression of a shared history, which is the point. I definitely did enjoy, especially when Robert's mom died, and Grace was the one who sort of was able to be there for him in a way that no one else really was. I liked that idea, because again, she knew his mom, she knew what things were like. And yeah. Obviously, Robert's relationship with Saul, very good. Very, very good. I feel like I've discussed it, you know, pretty good in Saul's video, but like, I definitely enjoyed that dynamic a lot. You could definitely feel the whole, they had history, they'd been together for years, but they were also being together in a new way because they were being open, and then they were, you know, married. And that was all, you know, different, and they were all, like, overcoming all this stuff, and yeah. Okay, so before I get into specific Saul plots, I am so sorry. Before I get into specific Robert plots, I do want to talk a little bit about Robert's overall story, because I can't not with this character. Oh, man. Okay, so Robert has a crap childhood. His mother was pretty much the embodiment of every awful stereotype you can think of, which was, like, the point of her character, I think. And from what we heard, which wasn't much, but from what we heard, it sounded like his father was pretty much about the same, as far as I can remember anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. His sister Lydia was, we only saw her in the one episode, and she didn't really do anything wrong there. To Robert, I mean. He was okay with it, but, still, she annoyed me. Anyways, so there's that. Robert is in the closet for years. Maybe feels like he can't come out of the closet because of his mom, or because of society, because again, this is definitely a different time. Now, I don't know if he was in the closet if he was knowingly in the closet before he met Saul, or if he realized after he met Saul that he liked men. I don't know. I have a suspicion, but I don't think it's ever clarified either way in the show. Either way. Doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but you know what I mean. It's not clarified, so it can't be important to what I'm saying here. So, first he marries Grace. And it seemed like for both of them, this was a bit of a marriage of convenience, I think. Especially for both of them. Like, I got the impression that they got together because, again, that was what they were supposed to do. And they stayed together. They had friendship. They were, like, what was it that Grace said in, season 1? When they were talking about it, she's like, I was happy enough in our relationship. And Robert wasn't, like, neither of them were really happy. They had kids. They raised those kids in what was clearly an unhappy household. They were all struggling. And Robert meets someone. Saul. They fall in love. They are together for 20 years. And Saul really is hesitating to come out. And that obviously is right. I'm not judging him for that at all in any way. I actually think Robert pushed too hard at times. It was always clear that Robert was the one who wanted to come out more. But either way, it all gets done. Saul says he's ready. They do it. They go public. They divorce their wives. They're together. They're married. Robert's retired. He's doing musical theater. Everything's great. He's living the life he always wanted to live. And then he gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Like, I can't even. Like, that's so... The show doing that, I can see why people wouldn't like it. I'm on the fence about it. Like, again, it's a show about older people. It is supposed to show what they go through. Alzheimer's is an undeniable fact for so many people. I can see if people would be upset that it happened to, one of the gay people on the show. But again, for me, I think if they were going to do it, they did it the best way they could. The only way they could have made it better is having Grace find out that Robert had Alzheimer's. I'm really sad they didn't do a scene about that. Those stories were so separate by that point, but either way. Yeah, the story was done so well, and you could feel the pain as Robert tried to come to terms, and Saul tried to come to terms, and the girls found out, and Robert's musical theater career ended, and God, it was just so sad. And it just feels so sad because, again, Robert had this life and he was struggling for so long, and then finally he got to live his best life, the one he'd always wanted, and then it was just like, yeah, he'll have some good moments. Yes, his life was not over. It ended as happily as it could given his diagnosis. And Saul was not going to abandon him, of course. Saul would never. But there's no coming back from Alzheimer's. There is no cure. And it was a tragic ending for the character, I think. And out of all the characters on the show, I mean, he just had the most tragic ending. God. For specific plots, a lot of it was, stuff with him and Saul, the stuff with Roy. Was that his name? The third guy in the relationship for a while? The stuff with musical theater was a lot of it. There was some stuff with Grace, the stuff with his mom. A lot of it was good. I didn't love all of it, but I did love a lot of it. And then there was, him and Saul coping with Saul cancer, which was actually a lot of a much smaller story than I expected. Okay, let's end off with some favorite moments for Robert. I've mentioned it already, but the one with him and Coyote in the hospital was just very sweet. Anything with him and Frankie, gold. Anything with him singing, amazing. A lot of the stuff between him and Saul was just so sweet. I'm gonna go with my favorite being that Impossible Dream song. I really can't think what that song's called. It's gonna hit me later. I'm gonna be watching the show and it'll mention it. I'd be like, oh yeah. But for now, I can't think, so I'm sorry if I'm calling it the wrong name. Either way, though, that song, him singing that song, like, when I think of Robert, I think of that scene. So good. The song's stuck in my head right now, actually. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back hopefully really soon with my video on Frankie.